पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे Paramanandamaadhavam. By the infinite grace of Lord Sri Ramakrishna and the Lord Krishna, we have again commencing our study of the Bhagavadgita after a short break. So we have to commence the third chapter of the Gita. The first chapter is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna's sorrow itself has become the stepstone for the spiritual advancement. That is why the Arjuna Vishada, the sorrow of Arjuna, has became the gateway of his personality development or the spiritual realization. That is why that chapter is called Yoga. Yoga means communion with the Lord. Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The second chapter is Sankhya Yoga. The Arjuna's basic problem is he thought the person is just the conglomeration or the combination of the body and mind. So I am going to kill my kith and kin relatives, the elders like Bhishma, etc. I incur sin and there will be social problems, social unrest, social chaos due to that. So that is the argument of Arjuna. Lord Krishna says, Atman is the reality. Atman is what is called the real human being. Swami Vivekananda has given a beautiful lecture in America, a part of the Jnana Yoga. The title of the lecture is Real and Apparent Man. The real man is Atman, the pure consciousness. The apparent man and what we see from outside, but which is not the real man, is body-mind complex. That is the substance of the teaching of the second chapter. So this is the Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga is same as the Jnana Yoga, the Atma Jnana, the knowledge of the Atman. But it is not only the knowledge which is spoken of in the second chapter, but in order to eligible for the knowledge, in order to be fit for the knowledge of the Atman, one should strive very hard. The basic ingredient for the knowledge, to acquire the knowledge, is the purification of the mind. The purification of the mind, Chitta Shuddhi, or in Gita, Sattva Shuddhi it is called. Sattva Shuddhi is the main criteria. Sattva Shuddhi can be gained by two means. One is the Ekagrata or the Samadhi it is called. Samadhi should not be understood as the highest state of spiritual consciousness here. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, Samadhi means concentration. By concentrating, we can discover the higher realms of the consciousness, we can get the higher dimensions of the spiritual experiences. So, the concentration is what is wanted, and also the devotion towards the Lord. So, all these concentration and the devotion to Lord has to be got through the practice of the Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga differs from ordinary activities in the sense you do every work for the sake of the God. You keep your mind on God, but in hand you work in the world. A part of the mind is engaged always, as Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly says, in God and God alone. Every work becomes the worship of the Lord, and every work we do for the sake of the Lord, and we slowly lose our agencyship that I am the doer. And Krishna says in the second chapter, you have the right for the work. You have to do the work. There is no other way. But you have to give up your hankering or the craving for the results of the work. The results of the work which begets or breeds what is called the attachment. The attachment is what is called the selfishness. The selfishness and attachment are the causes of the misery or the dukkha. So if you can give up the attachment, if you can give up the agencyship, and you try to do all actions as the worship of the Lord, then every action, whatever you do, it will become the worship of the Lord. This is the essence of the Karma Yoga. Krishna teaches in the second chapter. At the end of the second chapter, Krishna gives a very detailed description, a very vivid description of the man of perfection, man whose intelligence or the mind is very steady. He is unperturbed by the name and fame or troubles he has to face in the life, and he will be always in the state of equanimity of the mind. The equanimity, the same-sightedness, is the goal of the yoga, the goal of all the yogas, whether it is bhakti yoga or karma yoga or jnana yoga. To see God everywhere, that is the same-sightedness. To see one's own Atman everywhere, that is the real goal of the yoga. So one has to practice that. The great Shankaracharya writes what is called the Sambandha Bhashya. Sambandha Bhashya in the beginning of the third chapter. The third chapter is, as you know already, it is called Karma Yoga. This chapter exclusively deals with the karma. Karma means here yoga karma, karma yoga, karma eva yoga. There is no difference between karma and the yoga. We need not do yoga separately apart from the ordinary works we are doing day to day. We have to transform those works into yoga. That is the teaching of Krishna in this chapter. As a backdrop, as an introduction, we have to understand the essence of the teachings in the second chapter. So Shankaracharya says there are two paths instructed by Krishna in the second chapter. The first path is Sankhya Yoga, as I have already told. So Krishna says in the description of Stita Prajna, at the last part, almost at the end part of the second chapter, the description of Stita Prajna begins. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan. He relinquishes all the desires. Sarvan partha manogatan. The mind is the residence of all the desires. When we are in deep sleep we don't have any desires. So the residence or the crucible of all the desires is in the mind. So when we can control the mind, when we can direct the mind towards God, when we develop the power of concentration, we can have a control over our desires. So this kind of person who has complete mastery over the mind is called the Sita Prajna. So the beginning of the description. So the goal he achieves is explicitly told in the last verse of the second chapter. Yesha Brahmi Titi Partha Nainam Prapta Vimushyati. There will be no delusion at all. Delusion, attachment, grief, all these things vanish. One will be established in one's own self. The self itself is the reality. There is no difference between one's own self, Atman, and the Brahman. So, being established, being connected to, being identified with one's own Atman is what is called the Brahmi Sthiti. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Prapta Enam Prapya Na Vimushyati. There will be no delusion at all. So this is the goal of the Sankhya Yoga. In Sankhya Yoga, the second chapter, we find both Jnana Yoga, the Sankhya Yoga, as well as Karma Yoga. Both are instructed by Arjuna. So naturally, in Karma Yoga, what is the teaching of Karma Yoga in second chapter? Because the third chapter is but the extension of the second chapter. We should not read the chapters of Bhagavadgita independently. As Shankaracharya clearly has shown us, there is an invariable relationship between the previous chapter and the present chapter. We cannot read independently the chapter alone. We have to get connection or the flow of thought from the second chapter and then proceed to read the third chapter. So what is Karma Yoga? Karmanyeva adhikaraha. You have right only in the karma, not in the result. Because the main problem of the seed of all the problems, the source of all the problems is we do not give much attention to the work at hand rather than the result we are aspiring for that. Always want result, always want money, always want something better, life, better car, good life, etc., etc. We know that good life is always a chimera, is an illusion. We will never get it. But we forget to concentrate on the work hand. We don't find happiness in whatever we are doing. So Krishna gives a very practical teaching. Find happiness, find peace in concentrating what you are doing now. That is, you have right to do work, but not the results. The results will automatically come. The ultimate result you should strive for is the God realization. So you have to do everything to propitiate God. So God has to be propitiated by our work. We think by worshipping the God, God will be pleased. So we restrain or we confine the worship only to the puja we do in the worship room. That should not be. The worship should be extended to our workplace, in offices, schools, factories, everywhere. And we should try to see God everywhere and we should try to worship God everywhere. This is the essence. So, karmanyevadhikarasti. But we should never become idle. Always we should do karma. Whatever small work, wherever the God has stationed us, that particular action is always necessary. We should continue to do the work with joy out of the love of God. The love of God, the knowledge of God should be harbored in the mind, that outside expression, the external expression of the love and knowledge will be our work. Then our work, every work, whether we do a so-called lowly work of sweeping the floor or a kind of higher work, intellectual work like the preaching or the lecture, everything becomes a work or a just worship, not just work, worship of the Lord. So this is in essence what Krishna has taught Arjuna in the second chapter. But it created a kind of confusion in the mind of Arjuna. And in one side, Krishna is prizing the Jnana Yoga like anything, and he devotes several verses. In fact, much of the verses in second chapter is on Jnana, and even the Tita Prajna, the steady wisdom, the man of steady wisdom, is a description who is adept in Jnana, who is established in Brahman or the Atman. So naturally it seems to us Krishna has given much importance to Jnana, Jnana Marga, Neti Neti Marga it is called. So everything is illusory, only God is real. So we have to give up attachment, one seek God and God alone. And Neti, this is not, only reality is God. This is the path of the Jnana Yoga. But the Jnana Yoga is very difficult for us, the ordinary people, because we have so much identified with the body, mind. It is very difficult for us to disentangle from the idea of body and mind. We may hear hundreds of lectures and may read hundreds of books, but it is very difficult, it is almost impossible for us to get detached from the body and mind and realize that we are Atman or the Brahman. It is not for the common people at all. Even Krishna admits this in the Bhagavadgita. It is very difficult. So the common man should be given an opportunity to live a spiritual life. Spiritual life is to be given to everyone. It's not only for the people of higher caliber, the saints like Ramana Maharshi or Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda or Aurobindo. The spiritual life is for all. Krishna's teaching is for the masses, not for the saints, not for the people of higher character or the higher intelligence. So Arjuna was in a very perplexed state of mind. You say Jnana Yoga directly leads to realization. It is a direct path. So I meditate on Lord, I give up all attachments, I have the knowledge, and knowledge will make me free. This is the idea. Jnana devatu kaivalyam. This is the word, this is the phrase we use in Vedanta. Only through jnana one can have the liberation, understanding, awareness, realization. These are absolutely necessary for the moksha. That is the firm ground of the Vedanta. But how to get that? It is almost impossible. Knowledge is impossible. So, a common people will get confused whether we have to follow the path of knowledge. It is very difficult. And because another path also has been told, the path of Karma Yoga, where you give up the attachment, you give up the selfishness, you give up the agencyship, and you always remember God and continue to do the work. And come with the combination of the meditation. So you should remember Karma Yoga doesn't mean only doing work. There should be combination of meditation also. The meditation and the work. The combination is what is called the Karma Yoga. So what is the path? Whether I should choose the path of Jnana Yoga and retire myself into forest or the ashrama and lead an exclusive life of renunciate or sannyasi and strive to achieve that status of Brahman, or should I follow the Karma Yoga? Every individual will be in a perfect state of mind. The path of Jnana Yoga is very attractive. It is a direct path. You renounce everything and you take up the life of mendicant, purely meditative life. When you read the life of saints, you will be very much attracted towards it. You will be fascinated how they can keep their mind always on God. You also want to be like that. So Arjuna was in a perplexed state of mind. He thought Karma Yoga has its own difficulties and Jnana Yoga has got much more difficulties. Every path has its own difficulty. But Jnana Yoga is a direct path. But Karma Yoga, you are not sure whether you reach the goal or not. Karma Yoga is an indirect path. How Karma Yoga is an indirect path? First, you have to give up the attachment and continue to do the work. You have to be egoless. You have to surrender all your works to God. And slowly, slowly, your mind will be purified. Your mind will be full of devotion, with the humility, selflessness, and slowly, slowly you will get the knowledge. So knowledge dawns upon a person who has matured by the practice of Karma Yoga. Without Karma Yoga, it is impossible for us to get the eligibility for Jnana Yoga. This is the teaching of Bhagavadgita. One should always remember. We cannot go for Jnana Yoga all of a sudden. We can read books, but it will be only an intellectual exercise unless we experience something. The experience comes to us only our mind is free from desires, desire for name, desire for money, desire for sensuous pleasures, etc. Then only the knowledge can come to us. Knowledge will dawn to us. That is why we have to be extremely careful. Many of us will be attracted towards Jnana Yoga, but most of us do not have the ability to lead the life of a Jnana Yogi. So in Vedanta, especially Shankara Vedanta, Jnana Yoga is the life of a sannyasi, where you have to renounce everything. It is impossible for the common man. Then which path we have to choose? But another problem here is Arjuna has not received any direct instruction from Krishna. O Krishna, O Arjuna, there are two paths. One is the direct path, another is the indirect path, but you choose this path. That kind of direct instruction has not yet been given by Krishna to the Arjuna. O Arjuna, you choose the path of Jnana Yoga. You go forward. You are eligible for Jnana Yoga. Or O Arjuna, you are not eligible for Jnana Yoga. You are only eligible for Karma Yoga. You follow the path of Karma Yoga. So no such specific instruction has yet been given to Arjuna. So naturally, if our teacher or the elder says, which course I have to take, a student asks an elder or the father, which course I have to take, or professor. Professors will give lot of options, will not say which course a student has to take. The student will be naturally confused, naturally perplexed. He wants to make sure that path he is choosing is the correct one, and he wants a guidance with regard to that. So Krishna is in the status has taken the role of teacher here. Arjuna is the student. It is natural for Arjuna, the student, to have that confused state of mind. Which path I have to choose? So this is the relationship, this is the connection between the second chapter and the third chapter, and Arjuna is putting a question or rather complaining Krishna. Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava. O Janardana. Janardana is the name of the Lord Vishnu and also the Krishna. Bhagavadgita, rather Mahabharata, doesn't make any difference between Vishnu and the Krishna. Whatever the epithets or the qualities of the Krishna, Vishnu are equally ascribed to given to Krishna also, because we know Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Lord Himself. O Janardana, I think you have considered, you taught me, your opinion is Jnana is better than the karma. That is what I have gained that opinion from you. I have heard your lecture, second chapter. It is around 72 verses, a long sermon. Another longest sermon is 18th chapter. The second most long sermon of Krishna you will find in second chapter. I have heard it. What I have gathered from you is that according to you, Jnana is a superior path. Jnana Yoga or the Sankhya Yoga is the superior path, and Karma Yoga is the inferior path. Jayasi means most auspicious, most beneficial. As I have already told you, Jnana Yoga is a direct path to the realization of God or the Atman compared to Karmanaha, compared to the Karma. If this is your opinion, Mata buddhihi karmanaha jayasi. Buddhi here means Jnana Yoga, Karma here means Karma Yoga. If you consider Karma Yoga to be inferior than Jnana Yoga, or rather you consider Jnana Yoga to be the superior, Jayasi, than the Karma Yoga, if this is your opinion, Mata means opinion, Te Mata, your opinion, O Janardana, then you should have encouraged me to take the path of Jnana Yoga. But you are asking me to do Karma Yoga. That too, you have engaged me, you are engaging me in the most violent of the actions. Ghore Karma, terrible action. What is the most terrible action in the world? The war is the terrible action. It is not a sattvika action. It is not the peaceful action you are engaging me in. You are asking me to go for the war, killing the people, bloodshed. One would commit sin by killing others. Tat kim karmani ghore, ghore karmani. Ghore karmani here to be understood as yuddha. Of course, every action is terrible for us unless we enjoy it. Even getting up from morning is a terrible thing. Taking the food from the hands to the mouth, so much effort we have to make. So we want to live a very idle life, very lazy life. We want to be happy always, doing nothing. So every karma becomes terrible because it needs strenuous hardship. But here the war is something terrible than every action. Tat kim ghore karmani. Terrible action. Niyojayati. You are engaging me in. You are instigating me to go for, engage myself, involve in the terrible action that is war. Why you are doing that? I am your bhakta, I am your shishya, and I am your friend also. Before the teaching of Bhagavadgita, Arjuna was a great friend of Krishna, And when Bhagavad-Gita teaching started, he accepts in the first chapter or second chapter itself, Shishyosmi, Shadhimam Tvam Prapannam. I have completely surrendered myself to you. Please teach me. That means I am your bhakta. I am your devotee. I have completely surrendered. And I am your student also. You are the teacher. So what is the difference between ordinary teacher and great teacher like Krishna? Krishna is world teacher, Jagat Guru. Our ordinary teachers are teachers for few people. But Krishna's teaching is for the whole humanity. That is why his Gita is for the whole humanity. So, tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava, O Keshava, why are you instigating me? Why are you engaging me in this terrible war, terrible action? This is the question, as if in a complaining way. He is actually complaining. He is actually finding out a defect in the teachings of Krishna. So you have wonderful teaching about jnana and karma, but as far as I am concerned, you want me to engage in this war. Is it right on your part? No, it is not right, Krishna. That is the tone of Arjuna's speech here. Now he continues, Arjuna continues here, Krishna, I am very much confused. You don't intend, you have no intention to confuse me. You have no intention to confuse me, but your words as if have confused me. Teacher has no contention. In fact, now I am speaking to you, I am definitely have no intention to confuse you. Many of you have already been confused, because that is the gap between the teacher and the students. Unless teachers comes to the level of the student and teaches in a way that should be no doubt and there will be no kind of confusion, then it will be a good teacher. And that kind of teacher you will find in Sri Ramakrishna's quality, is one of the great qualities. In Sri Ramakrishna there is no confusion at all. Everything is straight, direct and simple. It touches your heart. When you become more and more scholastic words you use, and people get more and more confused. But so Arjuna is superimposing as if wrongly the defect of confusing to the words of Krishna, especially when he spoke, what he taught, the instruction of Krishna in the second chapter. So Arjuna says, and he submits, Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vada nishchitya yena shreyaha aham apnuyam. This is a direct question. You are not confusing me. You have no intention to confusing me. You have full sympathy on me. You are very compassionate towards me. You are my friend. You are my all in all. I have surrendered to you. But my mind is perplexed. Mohayasi. Here two eva is used. Eva means as if. It is just like this. Your words are not confusing, but it looks as if it is confusing to me because I am not able to understand. This is the first thing. And your words are not deluding. I am not supposed to be deluded by your words, but what to do? Because your words are as if is confusing, my mind also is getting deluded as if. It is not deluded, but I am not able to properly understand the intention and the very clear understanding of your words. That's all. This is the complaint. Tadekam vada nishchitya. Please tell me certainly. You spoke of the two yogas, Jnana Yoga and the Karma Yoga. Which one I have to take up? Vada nishchitya vada. Make a certainty in your mind first. First, in your mind, determine, O Krishna, what is best for Arjuna. You first in your mind, you determine first. Nishchitya, then you tell me, through which I can attain the highest good. Yena shreyaha aham apnuyan. Your mind is seemingly conflicting, seemingly confused. That's why it is confusing my understanding. In both the cases, Arjuna accepts it is wrong to ascribe those qualities or the defects on Krishna. That's why he uses as if I am confused, as if your words are conflicting. That's all. So these are the words of Arjuna. So Krishna replies not directly. Krishna doesn't say, "Oh Arjuna, yes, I have spoken of two paths in the second chapter. You now follow this path, Jnana Yoga or the Karma Yoga." Krishna doesn't say like that. Krishna always little go about, roundabout way, circumscribe. He says, my teaching from the beginning of the creation, he says. That means Krishna is hinting here, I am not the human being. I am not the human being in the form of this human body, the Krishna. I am the eternal God who has created the world. In the beginning of creation itself, Lokesmin dvividha nishta pura prokta mayanagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. Asmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta. Pura means in a very ancient period. What is the most ancient period? In the beginning of creation itself. So in the beginning of creation, to my children, the people, the human being, I have instructed the two paths. Or I have instructed here, Nishta means Tatparata. Shankaracharya explains. What is meant by Tatparata? Tatparata means engaging ourselves fully in a task with concentrated and dedicated mind is what is called Tatparata. That is what is meant by Nishtha. We use that term in Kannada and other Indian languages. Nishtha, completely engrossing ourselves in a particular thought. So that is what is called Nishtha. So two kinds of convictions, two kinds of spiritual path you have instructed in the beginning of creation itself. Dvivida Nishta Pura Prokta. In this word, Loke Asmin, in this word. Maya means by me, it has already been taught. Oh Krishna, this is not a noble instruction which I am giving you to you alone. I have already given that instruction. It is an old instruction. It is an old Vedic instruction. Veda is the source of all the knowledge. And through Veda, I have already given that instruction of two paths. Maya Anagha. It is very, very special word. Because Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Anagha, the man without any sin. This is very special and very interesting. It shows us one should be sinless, one should be free from sin, one should be free from defects if one wants to take up the spiritual path. By following the wrong path, unethical path, we cannot call ourselves as spiritual beings or the spiritual aspirants. So ethics is the foundation of spirituality. Spirituality is a great mansion built on the firm foundation of ethics. That's why Arjuna is free from that kind of defects in character. That is why Krishna chooses him to teach Bhagavad-gita. So, lokesmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta manamaya anagha. So, what are the two paths? One path is for Abhyudaya, another is path for the Nishreyasa. This is how Shankaracharya comments. Abhyudaya means worldly prosperity. That pravrutti marga, we call it. By performing karma yoga, we can have worldly prosperity, as well as if we choose, we can develop jnana, we can develop ourselves, we can choose to transcend that and go for jnana yoga also. Or if we do karma with efficiency, we can accumulate what is called abhyudaya, the worldly prosperity also by lawful means. So this is abhyudaya marga or the dharma marga. The another path is nishreyasa marga. Nishreyasa means the ultimate realization, ultimate beatitude, ultimate moksha. These two paths corresponding to the two goals. The path of karma is limited to abhyudaya, the path of jnana is limited to is expanded or transcended to the nishreyasa, the ultimate goal. The beauty of the Bhagavad Gita is we start with karma yoga but end with the jnana yoga. So nobody starts an education in the high school or primary school to end with that education. Oh, my primary school is over, I will finish, my education is finished. Nobody says. Then he will go to high school. High school education is not the end of the education. He will go to pre-university college. From pre-university college to the degree college to professional, PhD or postgraduate, like this. So here we start from the preliminary steps of spirituality, that is karma yoga, and rises ourselves to the eligibility or the standard where we can take up the higher path of jnana yoga. The two paths are combined in the karma yoga of the Bhagavad Gita. So if you don't want abhyudaya alone, if you develop detachment to worldly prosperity, there will be another wealth of spirituality is waiting for us. That is also a prosperity, the prosperity of spiritual achievement that will be waiting for us. So we should not be satisfied with the abhyudaya, worldly prosperity. Our goal should to realize God or the Atman, which is the abhyudaya, nishreyasa. So this is the final goal of every spiritual aspirant. That is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. The karma yoga of Bhagavad Gita is entirely different from the karma of the Vedas. The karma of the Vedas, that is yajna, yaga, etc., will teach us to get the goal of abhyudaya alone, worldly prosperity. Here we start with karma yoga with detachment and develops ourselves into great spiritual aspirant, aspiring only for knowledge. And this is the speciality, this is the uniqueness of karma yoga instructed in Bhagavad Gita. So, jnana yogena sankhyanam, Krishna says. So, I have given the path, I have instructed the path of jnana yoga, which is to be followed by the Sankhyas, the Jnanis, the spiritual aspirants of the higher caliber, and who can discriminate, who can meditate for a long time, and who can have utmost concentration, and who can devote their whole life for the pursuance of spiritual realization alone. And that is the life of sannyasa, that is the life of to renunciate. So the Sankhya Yoga is meant for that. And Karma Yogena Yoginam. So I have instructed the path of Karma Yoga for those who follow the spiritual path but not capable yet to go for Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the highest achievement, but still one who is not capable of achieving that, rise to that level, can follow the Karma Yoga. Though they are also called the yogis here. Both are yogis. Jnana Yoga, those who follow Jnana Yoga are also yogis. Those who follow Karma Yoga, they are also yogis. But here, Jnana Yogins are called the Sankhyas, and the Karma Yogins are called the yogis. That means I am not doing an ordinary work. My work is not ordinary. Though I am studying, my study is not ordinary. I am doing everything for the sake of the Lord, sake of the God. That makes my work transformed into Karma Yoga, and then I will become a yogi. If I study for the sake of selfishness, with full of craving for the results, with lot of difficulties, and not concentrating on the work but only on the result, and full of desires, then it is an ordinary work. But that work has to be transformed into Karma Yoga by offering or dedicating the same actions I am doing to the God, then I will become a yogi. This is the secret how we can become yogis. So in ordinary work also we can become yogis. Karma Yoga will make us yogis. It is not that only the followers of Jnana Yogas are yogis. Karma Yogena Yoginam, Krishna says. And Krishna then says, Na karmanat anarambhat naishkarmyam purushoshnute nacha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhigacchati. So before going into the details of this verse, we have to understand the word Naishkarmya. This is a very important word. There is a work or the book by Sureshwaracharya, a student of direct disciple of Shankaracharya, called Naishkarmya Siddhi. Naishkarmya means egolessness and actionless. Suppose if I have no ego in my work, if think I am not the doer, it is God alone who is doing, and then it will not become my action, it will become God's action, because there is no ego at all. Though I am doing the work, it is as good as I am not at all doing the work. And this state of mind one will get only on realizing the God. One of the benefits of realizing the God is the ego, the cause of all the suffering, cause of all the miseries, cause of all the problems of life will disappear, and in its place the God will shine. God replaces our ego. The ego is very strong in us. That is why we suffer. Everything we think in terms of I, mine, I am doing the work, I am having the result, it is my property. So that ego is very strong, and that is the cause of misery, problems, tension, stress. So if we analyze, the psychologists also say this is the ego problem of the ego. Because we have identified ourselves with the body, mind so much, we are not able to get over it. Whatever happens to our mind and whatever happens to our body, we think it is happening to ourselves, and we get troubled by that. So a disease comes, and disease is a state of body. We say, I have disease, so I am suffering. And some mental agony, that is something happening to the mind. Because I am identified with the mind, I think it is my agony. Everything I say it is my and I, but it is not I and mine. It belongs to body, it belongs to mind. Only when we detach ourselves from the body and mind, we can be free from all the troubles and the problems and the stress and all this. And the state of Naishkarmya is that even though you are working, you will be in the state of non-action, perfect non-action. I am not doing anything. So we will read thus instructions and how to perform that work in the future, in the succeeding verses of the Gita. So this body is doing, the mind is doing. I am not at all attached to them. Let them do whatever they want. Let them get results. Let them suffer. But I am detached from that. This state of mind one will get only on God realization or the self-realization. And this is the state, this is the ultimate state of Naishkarmya. So Naishkarmya is the goal. But people misunderstand this Naishkarmya. If I can give up the work and sit idle in the home, doing nothing, and call myself as a spiritual person, great Swami, or the great monk, or the great saint, oh, that is the state of Naishkarmya. And that kind of hypocrisy, that kind of falsehood, that kind of cheating oneself, that is a very stumbling, very great stumbling block in the spiritual path or the spiritual life. And Krishna is condemning that. That is why he said, na karmana anarambhat. By not commencing the work or by not doing any work, you do any work. So in Vedic tradition, there are two kinds of work. One is Laukika karma, another is Vaidika karma. In modern terms, we can say it is secular work, and we do all kinds of secular work. If I am a student, I go and study and attend college or the school. If I work in office, I work in factory, and I have so many things to do. These are all secular works. If I am directly engaged in a kind of spiritual work, and I am doing puja, meditation, attending arati or the prayer in ashrama, these are all called the Vedic spiritual duties. The distinction itself is wrong according to Krishna. Why you make such a distinction? Why can't you spiritualize even the secular work? Why can you think it is secular and is spiritual? Even secular works you dedicate to God, give up the agencyship, think it is Lord work, give up that. So this is what Krishna says. So Krishna clearly says, by giving up of works, by sitting idle, is not the solution to our spiritual problems. So you will not get Naishkarmya Sthiti, the highest spiritual beatitude, the spiritual realization, that actionless. Real actionless is knowing the Atman which is there is no action. That is the real Naishkarmya Sthiti. It is not just giving up of the work is not Naishkarmya. That is in essence what Krishna is teaching us. Na karmana anarambhat naishkarmyam purushaha ashnute. One man cannot dream to attain the state of ultimate spiritual realization where there is no sense of action by just giving up the work. And also he says, some people think as I give up the work, I run away from the house, I run away from the family, or rather I don't take up any responsibility at all. Oh, I have become now great sannyasi. You see, because I have renounced it. Krishna clearly says, Nacha sannyasana deva siddhim samadhigacchati. So what is siddhi here? Ultimate spiritual attainment. The siddhi is same as Naishkarmya, which is told in the earlier line. So Naishkarmya is the same as the Siddhi here. Siddhi or the moksha or the Naishkarmya are the one and the same. He says Naishkarmya in the first line, in the second line he says Siddhi, that's all. One will never be able to attain this. Samadhi gacchati, samyak adhigacchati, one cannot attain that. One cannot reach towards that. Why? Sannyasana-deva. What is sannyasa? We have to have a clear understanding of what is sannyasa. Suppose today I have to do some work. I give up that work. It is not it is also a kind of sannyasa. Renouncing, giving up is also a sannyasa. Suppose I had to go to a wedding party and I had to enjoy the feast with good dishes, etc. I give up that. I sit in my house, but I would be thinking, I missed it. I missed the good dishes. I should have gone and enjoyed that. What kind of sannyasa it is? It is only a kind of external sannyasa. In the words of Sri Ramakrishna, it is only bhashya sannyasa. So what Krishna is condemning here is the external sannyasa, physical sannyasa. A diabetic patient gives up sugar. He doesn't take sugar, but the taste for the sugar in his mind will always be lingering throughout his life. Oh, this sugar is so sweet, I am not able to enjoy. That is called ruchi. Krishna condemns that ruchi. After some verses we will read that again. This idea comes. So here one should always be engaged in work. One should never think of giving up of the work. That is the essence of the teaching here. If you give up the work, you will not attain the ultimate spiritual realization, where you will reach the state of non-action. Non-action means Atman has no action. Establishing in Atman, realizing the Atman is non-action state. That is Naishkarmya. Just by giving up work, I don't want work, I will not do work, you will not be able to achieve that. That means for us common people, we should continue to do the work. We should continue to do the work. How to transform those actions into Karma Yoga? That is what Krishna is teaching us in the Karma Yoga chapter, that is the third chapter. And second line says, by giving up works, you will never be able to attain the spiritual perfection, that is Siddhi. So as I told you already, what is told us, what is expressed as Naishkarmya, it is same as Siddhi in the second line. So we have completed the fourth chapter, and the fifth chapter he says, Krishna gives the reason for it, why one should continue to do the work. Irrespective of our mental states, irrespective of our condition, irrespective of so many troubles, we should try to do work as much as possible. Continue to do work, but we should dedicate all the works to God. Because Krishna says in the next sloka, we have no time for that, one cannot live without work even for a fraction of a second. Because moving my hand is also an action, and opening and closing my eyes, which is but natural for me, is also an action, and breathing is also an action. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi, a fraction of second, jatu tishtati akarma kratu. Ever, even for a moment, one cannot hope to live, hope to keep oneself alive without doing work. Tishtati means he cannot stand, because karyate hevasha karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. There is something called prakriti, nature. Nature has got three qualities: sattva, rajas, and tamas. The sattva and rajas and tamas, which are the offshoot or the constituents of the prakriti, will always impel us, or always instigate us, will always make us to do one work or the another. Sarubaha, it will engage everyone, it will instigate everyone to do work, because work is something very natural for us, an ingrained tendency in every human being, let alone uh, every being, is to do work. So one cannot escape from the work. So we shall again take up this verse for a detailed discussion in the next class. So one is sure, if somebody says Bhagavadgita is teaching passive life, a life without work, life without action, life without dynamism, so they are at fault. They are simply telling the untruth, because in these two verses we have learned action, dynamic action, action with zeal, enthusiasm. That is the message of Krishna. But how to transform that action into spiritual action, how to direct the mind towards God by action, and that secret we have to learn. That is, we learn from the Karma Yoga of Krishna in the third chapter. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.